Hi there, I'm Cotton and welcome back to Cotton Hammer. Today we are going to do another puddle dive on a minor chapter. If you are new here, I call them puddle dives because there is just not enough lore available for a deep dive. Hence, puddle dive.
I get it.
And today it will be about the Black God. A Raven God successor chapter that can trace its lineage all the way back to the Horus Heresy. So, without further faffing about, let's get into this puddle. So, who even are the Black God? The Black God can trace their origins back to a single man, Gareth Arendi. Now, this puddle dive ain't about him, so we are going to just quickly skim over what got him into that position. Gareth Arendi was the commander of the Shadow Wardens, Corvus Corax's honor guard. They were deployed to Isstvan V after Horus had thrown a little fuss cause Daddy didn't love him enough. Well, one massacre later and Gareth finds himself and some surviving Shadow Wardens properly buggered and stranded on Isstvan. After teaming up with some surviving Iron Hands and Salamanders, Gareth instantly used them as bait for the traitors so he and his gang could make it off planet in a shuttle. After some guerrilla action in their new space truck, they reunited with the Raven God Legion. Well, what was left of it.
Womp womp.
Here Gareth was reinstated as the commander of the Shadow Wardens and joined the liberation of Carandiru, where he immediately ignored his orders cause Corax's battle plans aren't worth the memory to think about. And good thing that he did, cause he arrived just in time to save his Primarch's ass from Fabius Bile's pet project, the New Men. Corax at least showed gratitude that his ass was saved from the merry New Men and gave Gareth Arendi command of a new fighting force, the Black God. So here we are at the origin of the Black God. They were founded from veterans of the Shadow Wardens, but unlike the Shadow Wardens, which served as Corax's honor guard, the Black God were able to use their expertise more freely, unburdened by having to protect Corax's ass. They were first deployed during the Battle of Yarent. We sadly only know that they were there. That's it. So let's move on to the end of the Horus Heresy and the founding of the Black God as a proper chapter. After the Horus Heresy, there was of course the second founding, where Bobby G split all the legions into chapters of 1,000 Astartes. Corvus Corax was on board with splitting the legions, agreeing with Bobby G's plans for the future of the Astartes. He was so excited to see those plans come to fruition that he buggered off to the Eye of Terror to have a big cry and then bully Lorgar. And since Lorgar is apparently just walking around in the open in the times of the Secretix Maledictum, those were 10,000 years well spent. Anyway, since Corax had already given his okay to splitting up what was left of his legion, they proceeded with the second founding. They were able to just barely squeeze out 4 chapters out of what remained of the Raven God Legion. Those are the Raven Guard, obviously, the Revilers, the Raptors, and of course our boys from the Black God. Gareth Arendi was still alive at this point and took on the mantle of Chapter Master of the Black God. With the new chapter came new colors and new tactics. The complete black of the Raven God was switched to a main white with black as secondary color, mainly on the pauldrons, arms and helmet, with red accents like the chest crest. Unlike most chapters, their company color isn't on the trim of their pauldrons, but on their knees. Their chapter symbol is a red circle with white trim and a white thunderbolt going through it, same colors as their armor. They also changed their tactics somewhat. While the Raven God is famous for the infiltration and stealth, the Black God only adopted the stealth path to sneak in massive amounts of firepower. Their favorite tactic is to hide heavy close range artillery, like Vindicators and Thunderfire cannons, and then lure the enemy into an ambush where they just blow the shit out of them.
Kaboom!
With aforementioned heavy weapons. I mean, it still counts as 100% stealth if you leave no witnesses and no bodies behind. The Black God, sadly, is cursed with the typical Raven God gene seed affliction. Corax's gene seed is of such dog shit quality that just a few years after he left, the gene seed started to deteriorate. This has affected all Raven God successors and has caused several of the Astartes implants to no longer function properly or even at all. Now for some battles that we actually know details about. The first battle we have records of is the Battle of Doom Gorge in year 990 Millennia 41. What they were doing the last 10,000 years? No idea. But they are Raven God, so they were probably so stealthy that the scribes that record their battles kept losing track of them. Or they got blown up by accident. Either way, Doom Gorge is what we got. During the Battle of Doom Gorge, the Black God's third company defended an unknown world against a splinter fleet of Hive Fleet Kraken. Here they managed to get the Tyranids to focus their attack through a narrow gorge. Every time the Tyranids had squeezed sufficient numbers into the gorge, the Black God unleashed barrages of their Thunderfire cannons straight down the gorge. After wiping out 3 waves of the Tyranid attacks, their numbers had dwindled enough for the Black God to counter-attack, hunting the remnants of the Tyranids down, and wherever they start to amass in larger numbers, the Thunderfire cannons would blast out formations apart, again and again. The next time we see the Black God in action is in year 999 of Millennia 41, aiding with the defense of Cadia during the 13th Black Crusade. Well, I'm pretty sure we all know how that went. Again, just like with the Battle of Yarrand, we only know that they were there. We have no idea what they were doing, if they got wiped out or escaped, nothing. And lastly, the War for Dwyox's Reach. Dwyox's Reach was a planet in the Chromid system. It got invaded by the Death Guard during their Caradon campaign. Strike Force Krenzic of the Black God, together with Strike Force Vorga of the White Scars, fought against impossible odds, attempting to use guerrilla tactics outside the larger cities in the ravines of the world. While they fought bravely, Typhus had brought such a huge war host of not just Death Guard but also Nurglide cultists and other stinky Gribblies that the world was ultimately lost to chaos. But both the Black God and White Scar strike forces fought till the last man and the last bolter wound. That was it for all the recorded battles. So let's move on to known Black God characters. Yes, both of them. We of course have Gareth Erendi, who was the first chapter master of the Black God. While we know a bit of what he did during the Horus Heresy, most notably called Corvus Corax an idiot to his face multiple times, we don't have any records of what he did as a chapter master. The second character we know about is the Master of the Forge, Germanicus. He's the guy that held the line during the Battle of Doom Gorge and has a Thunderfire cannon as waifu. We know he survived Doom Gorge, and it is not unreasonable to think that he might still be alive and in active service. Let's hope he is still blowing up filthy Xenos with his Thunderfire cannons, just like the Emperor intended him to. That's pretty much all we know about the Black God. They are still very much active, and have even received Primaris reinforcements. Their tactics of mass use of the heaviest guns to literally blow their enemies to pieces in a single strike during an ambush is not something you'd expect from a Raven God successor, but I quite like it. The Battle of Doom Gorge was also the perfect example of how the Black God operate. Pick a zone where the enemy is in a position that you want, aim every heavy gun you have at that position, in their case Vindicators, and especially their beloved Thunderfire cannons. And once enough of the Gribblies are where you want them, you blow them into low orbit. So, that's it on the Black God. Raven God successors that discovered that nobody can discover you if they are spread out over a quarter-mile area. If you liked the video, then please give the video a like so my overlord YouTube is pleased with me. Also consider subscribing if you want to see more of this, and join me on Twitter for daily Warhammer fun facts. Anyway, thanks for watching and see you all next time. Cheers!